After the rupture of death, we meet the alchemist. Temperance doesn't rush. She stirs, she blends, she listens. This is the archetype of sacred integration where opposites meet and something new is born. Hey friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Elizabeth and this is the More Intuitive Me. I'm a tarot reader and your companion on the path of self-discovery. Welcome back to the Fool's Journey. Today the Fool meets Temperance and we explore the art of sacred integration and balance. Temperance is connected to fire. And so here we have the element of confidence, optimism, passion, and bravery. While it's connected to fire, it's not exactly like the wildfire of passion. It's more like the hearth. It's the slow burn, the flame that warms and transforms. It's also connected to Sagittarius. This is also the sign of optimism, but also exploration and freedom. Sagittarius is the seeker, the philosopher, the archer aiming for the truth. This sign brings curiosity, expansion, and the wisdom of the long view. There's also a planetary connection to Jupiter. And here we have the planet of growth and expansion, but also the planet of generosity and spiritual abundance. Jupiter reminds us that integration isn't just balance, it's expansion through synthesis. Temperance teaches us that fire doesn't just destroy, it actually refines. Temperance is number 14 in the major arcana, and so that reduces down to 5. So we have this connection, if you will, to the Hierophant. When you look at these cards, you kind of have this idea of spiritual guidance, right? With Temperance, we have inner harmony, and that complements the Hierophant's external teachings. So together, they suggest a path of balanced spiritual growth, one that honors both intuition and tradition. The Hierophant speaks to shared values and group identity, while Temperance invites peaceful coexistence and emotional intelligence. So both Temperance and the Hierophant carry this sense of ritual, but they express it differently. Temperance brings a feeling of gentle, flowing ceremony, like blending energies or creating space for emotional balance. And the Hierophant represents structured rituals like traditions, teachings, or formal spiritual practices. Temperance and the Hierophant both hold sacred knowledge, but they just express it differently. We have the Hierophant teaching through tradition and structure, lineage. And then we have Temperance. And Temperance teaches through experience, experimentation, and flow. And so together they remind us that wisdom is both inherited but also discovered. Temperance is the ritual remix. Let's take a look at the symbolism of the Temperance card. So first we'll start with the angel, often androgynous, representing spiritual neutrality and divine guidance. Now also we usually see 2 cups, right? We have them here and some kind of liquid going back and forth between the 2 of them. This speaks to the idea of the blending of opposites, emotion and reason, or spirit and matter. I really love what they've done in this card here, but you could see that 1 foot is in the water and 1 foot is on the soil. That really speaks to the balance that we experience when we're both grounded and connected to our intuition. It's a bit difficult to see, but on the Temperance card, you will usually see this path. It's not on here, although the mountain is represented. Now, this path towards the sun is a journey towards clarity, right? It's being illuminated by integration. Another common symbol that we will see is this triangle here, usually within a square. Now, that could be spirit within matter, sacred geometry of embodiment. But I also like to think of that connection to spirituality, because the triangle and the number 3, right, the 3 points of the triangle usually denotes spirituality, like the Holy Trinity or Maiden, Mother, and Crone. And then with the square, we have the 4 corners, right? So it's that number 4 that denotes material or earthly realm. You can think about it as the 4 elements. And together they represent that divine balance between the material and the spiritual realms. One of my favorite symbols are the irises, and those speak to wisdom, messages, faith, and purity. We can see that Temperance doesn't choose sides, she chooses synthesis. Let's talk about temperance in everyday life. One way that temperance can show up for us in everyday life could be the blending of our spiritual practice with our daily life. And I'll use the example of, preparing a cup of tea, right? You could go and grab a tea bag, throw it in the cup, put some boiling water on it, let it steep, and call it a day. Or you can choose your herbs with intention. Maybe you might want chamomile because of its calming effects, or you might want mint for clarity, or even ginger for warmth. And then as you steep the blend, that in and of itself becomes a ritual, one of harmony and presence. It could also be finding peace between conflicting desires, a happy medium, or integrating lessons from grief, joy, and change. You might find yourself perhaps journaling about a recent challenge and then writing a gratitude note to acknowledge the growth and the resilience that that experience taught you. And that allows you to weave both your shadow and your light into the bigger picture. It could also be choosing moderation without losing depth. Maybe you decide that you're going to enjoy your favorite dessert, but you're going to do it slowly and fully savor each bite rather than rushing through it or overindulging. You want to embody that the mindful pleasure of having that treat, because it's something that you don't have very often. It could also be honoring both your intuition and your logic in decision making. So let's say, for example, that you are faced with a choice and you take time to listen inward, right, for your gut feeling. But then you also list the pros and the cons, and that allows you to balance both the heart and the mind before taking action. You see, temperance shows up when we're ready to live in wholeness, not just in parts. Let's take a look at some card comparisons. So here we have the Temperance card from the Universal Weight, and then we also have the Temperance card from the Simdala. And on the Simdala, the activation is amalgamation. Interesting word, right? But actually, amalgamation is the sacred blend of distinct elements. When our brothers and sisters were brought over from Africa into the Caribbean, right, they had their own spiritual practices, but they were being made, or they were being forced to practice Christianity. And so what ended up happening is that they started to weave bits of their practice under the guise of the saints. And so this created this unique spiritual expression that honored both traditions, but they had to adapt to these new circumstances. And it wasn't fair, but it was creative, and they were able to continue practicing. And today, based on the region, we have the practices of Santeria, of voodoo, hoodoo. That's where it was born from. I think this is the perfect example of how temperance's theme of integration and synthesis can show up in real life. Now, here we have Tarot of Light, and the key word is harmony. And it's such a beautiful card. Harmony speaks to that peaceful coexistence of both our inner truths and our outer truths. Then here we have our vision quest, and we have the key word integration. And this is that idea of weaving both our shadows and our light. And I love that that's exactly what this figure is doing, is actually weaving. This is from the Rosebud, and we have the keyword alchemy. This speaks to transformation through intentional combination. Over here we have the Akamara. This is the deck that I am currently working with. And we have the word equilibrar. That word comes from Spanish and Portuguese roots, and it means to balance or to harmonize. Here we have the quiet rebel, and the key word here is the mad scientist. I love this card so much. When I see this woman, I think of, your housewife, and the idea of necessity being the mother of invention. And a lot of times this is like the ultimate the ultimate act of temperance. Here I'm going to show you the temperance card from my Naturescapes. It is so beautiful. I love this card. I don't know if you have ever had this experience, but as a youngster, I visited Puerto Rico and we went to the beach. And this particular beach was unlike any other I had seen because the river met the beach. And there was something so odd and yet so beautiful about seeing, the waves crash in from one direction and the river, kind of meet those waves. And it was just incredible. That's exactly what this card reminds me of every single time I look at it. And then here we have the shimmering veil. I don't know. I wanted to put these together because I just think they look beautiful. But this deck is just incredible. When I look at this, I just see pure energy. I see this angelic being. Now you could see the two cups. One is blue, one is red, which oftentimes we see many times in different temperance cards. We might see one wing is red and the other one is blue, or sometimes they combine both of them to be purple, right? So I love this card so very much. Now I'm gonna show you here and here. We have the Temperance card from the Mermaid Tarot, as well as the Temperance card from the Tarot of Strange Branches. I just thought this was interesting, right? Because here we have the idea of the two shells, right? And the liquid or the energy is actually above the water, right? It's flowing from one shell to the other. And then here we have seashells as well, but you could see that they're in the fingertips. And so these are super teeny tiny, kind of giving you that idea that you have to be ever so careful when you're balancing those ingredients. Oh, I love it so much. Now, speaking of being careful. I'm going to show you two options right here. So we have A Nightmare Before Christmas, and we have the Sasarai Beetle. Both similar and yet completely different. Of course, in The Nightmare Before Christmas, we see Sally concocting a potion. She wants to get out of the house so that she can be closer to Jack, but in order to do this, she needs to concoct a potion, if you will, that will knock out the little doctor guy so she can get out of there, right? And so here you have her combining these ingredients and the reaction of those ingredients. And then this card, which I love so, so much. So at first you might think, oh, it's a human person. But if you look closely, you can see the feathers have been tattooed on the arms, and they intentionally made this figure blue, which a lot of times heavenly beings or souls, gods or goddesses were colored blue or shown in the color blue. So I love that. Now this card here is a bit unique. This is from Tarot of the Guiding Muse, and it's just a completely different take. It is clearly winter outside, okay? You can see there even appears to be snow. And she has opened up the windows. Why, you might ask? It's way too hot inside. There's steam coming from every single kettle and cup and pot on the stove. And so she is inviting in the cold air to kind of help temper the warm air that is inside the home. How beautiful is that? And I love that they made the curtains lavender. And you can see the sofa is kind of like half pink and half blue. And I know this is a stretch, but when I look at those curtains, to me, I imagine like angel wings. So beautiful. This card here is from Tarot of Haunted House. And we see our main figure, Raven, and she has stopped to have an adult beverage with the bartender. And so here you also have this idea of combining certain elements, certain spirits, certain flavors, certain liquids in order to create the perfect cocktail. Very cool card. This is by no means a Thoth study, but I want to show this card here. This is from the lovely Om. And you can see that we have a figure sitting on what appears to be some sort of lotus, and she is riding on the back of a crocodile. And you might ask, what is that? So we have the keyword balance, alchemy, transmutation, which of course we're all accustomed to, but then we have the word art. In the Thoth deck, the key word for temperance is art. So here in this card, we have the goddess Ganga, liberator of souls after death. The cups represent the exchange or the balance, the mixing, the processing, or the alchemy. The crocodile represents ancient instinctive nature. And the swirls are the blending of heavenly and earthly. And the book shares, when you get this card, find that weightless middle point where there's a perfect balance. Avoid extremes. See the value in both body and spirit. Look for the blissful buzz when both are in flow with each other. Process your heavy experiences until you find lightness. Isn't that beautiful? So here, lastly, I'm gonna show you the Temperance card from the Sun and Moon. You could see this is a tiny deck, right? And then to top it all off, I trimmed it. It did have a keyword at the top and a border, and I got rid of it all. But we see, let me bring it up. We see the Temperance angel doing what they do. One foot in the water, one on the stone. I love what we see here, right? Because we see the yin and yang, the combination, and that's what's happening here. And the guidebook tells us that this card is associated with integration, synthesis, and synergy through the creative process. For someone who is not even tempered, the ability to react calmly seems magical. This energy brings us beyond our duality to a calm approach to life by avoiding extremes. Temperance reveals the middle path described in Buddhism. The black and white element of this card reveal the light and the dark dual nature within us. The black and white cups represent properties of the sun and the moon. Like an alchemist, the angel mixes opposing elements of life, with one foot in the water and the other on the land. Fire and water are brought together into steam, signifying creative power and integration of opposites. Beautiful, beautiful card. As we explore and get to know Temperance, we see that Temperance doesn't dilute, she distills. Friends, if you love tarot and this content resonates with you, please make sure to like and subscribe. Tap the bell icon so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. And thank you so much for being here. I thought that we could do a reading on the energy of Temperance. And I'm going to be using this deck right here. This is the Akamara Tarot. And this is a beautiful deck. It is a collection made to venerate the collective beauty represented within the practices of the African diaspora. Within this deck, we have African, we have African American, Afro Caribbean, Afro Latin, Afro Arab, Afro Indian, and Aboriginal people that are represented here. Now, this is a deck that I'm still learning, and it's what I would consider to be an intermediate deck. Everything in this deck has been changed, and so I'm going to keep the guidebook handy because I have like different notes here. So we are gonna do a reading on the energy of Temperance. So I left the Temperance card out, which in this deck it is called Equilibrar. And we want to see how this energy is showing up in our lives right now. So for card number 1, what opposing forces am I being asked to blend? What opposing forces am I being asked to blend? Okay. Oh, powerful right off the bat. Not shocked. Not shocked. This happens every single time I do a reading with the Archetype series. So we have bondage. So we can see that is the Devil card. All right. So card number 2. What supports my integration process? What supports my integration process? It's right here. Oh my goodness. I'm pretty sure that's the 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, the 10 of Swords. Pip deck, by the way, I forgot to mention it. And the minors, with the exception of the Ace, do not have any titles at all whatsoever. So we have the 10 of Swords. Okay, so card number 3. What new clarity is emerging from this alchemy? What new clarity? What new? This is incredible. What new clarity is emerging from this alchemy? Oh, wow. Okay, so we have 4, 8, 9. The 9 of Pentacles or Cowrie in this deck. The 9. I mean, my first thought is like, wow. It starts out so super strong, but look how it's going to turn out. Let's get ready for a powerful reading. So, for card number 1, what opposing forces am I being asked to blend? We have the bondage card. And that's so interesting because that's exactly what the Temperance card is about. It's finding that balance, it's finding the harmony. Where is the line? Obviously, this is one extreme. This card here gives the impression that one has no control over our life, but in fact, we're fortunate because we do. At least here in my geographic region at this point in time, I feel that I have certain liberties that I'm grateful for. But these freedoms, they're not balanced by any means. If we look at what's going on in our world today, we're seeing bits of this throughout our country and throughout the world. I see this hand here pointing the finger, but perhaps there is no one to blame but ourselves. I feel this card is asking us to really think about what we can do to call our power back to ourselves. I recently saw something about the women of Iran collectively deciding not to wear their modesty coverings. And because they did it in the collective, there was strength in numbers. And I don't know if that's true or not, but the thought of the idea is so beautiful. The thought that if we all unite and stand for a cause, that we can be the change. And for card number 2, what supports my integration process? You know, this could be like a practice or maybe even a habit that could nurture our sense of harmony and flow. But we have the 10 of Swords here. So immediately what comes to mind is the things that are happening in modern day America and around the world weigh heavy on our minds, and we're feeling powerless. We're feeling outraged. We're feeling worry and fear and anxiety. And so maybe a practice that we can use to nurture ourselves and promote this sense of harmony and flow is to learn what are the things that we can let go of. Oftentimes, the things that we are worried about are things that we have no control over. But what if we took that energy and put it towards something else that was more healing and more nurturing and created more of a sense of balance? There's a lot of chaos right now with regards to SNAP benefits. I have seen some people trying to create pantries, right? Create food pantries so that they can help the people that are suffering as a result of this shutdown. And so while all of us cannot run out and do this, there are things that we could each do on an individual level, even if it is raising the vibration, sending love and healing, the power of prayer, the power of meditation, the power of coming together as a group, the power of intention. That would certainly be a much better use of time than this. And then card number 3, we have what new clarity is emerging from this alchemy. There's a beauty in all of this, a silver lining, if you will. And I'm going to read to you from the guidebook. The Nine of Cowrie represents taking the time to enjoy the accomplishments that you have achieved thus far through hard work and dedication. And it can also suggest that a time of hardship that you at once thought was never ending is in fact ending, and joyous times are on the horizon. What a beautiful message. I typically don't read on this type of level, but this is what I'm seeing. And this is my first time reading with it. It's obviously a powerful reader because there's so many, even though the artwork is simple, there's so many layers. We have very strong, powerful energy. I can't help but notice that here we have card 14 and then we have card 15. It's like, what is going to happen if you don't do this? This is what you have to look forward to. A loss of power, a loss of self, loss of balance. With that bondage card, I really don't feel like it's meant to come in, to kind of condemn. I feel like it's a mirror. I feel like it's a mirror and it's meant to show you and invite you to take a closer look at what really is going on. Where do my heart and head need to find harmony? When I look at this card, I kind of get the feeling that we've given everything up. With card number 2, we're looking to see what kind of practice or habit could nurture our sense of harmony and flow. It's that idea of learning to let go of those things that we cannot control and instead focus on the things that we can. We can control our breath. We can control our peace. We can control how we respond to things. We can control the intentions that we put forward, our level of kindness to other people. And so this is really inviting us to shift, get out of our heads, shift. And with that clarity, we have this beautiful card. I'm going to bring it in close because it's hard to see. There's a lot of really beautiful line work in this card, but we see this beautiful female figure here. We can see the bird and then the placement of the cowrie shells. It's just gorgeous. I feel like this reading is inviting us to listen deeply, right? And trust that this balance that you're working on is going to lead to peace of mind and to more joyous occasions down the road. If we're not careful, our mind can become our biggest trap. Temperance teaches us that balance isn't passive, it's intentional. It has to be, right? Healing isn't always dramatic. Most of the time, it's quiet. The idea of becoming whole is a practice, it is not a destination. Next week, we meet the devil, the archetype of shadow, desire, and entanglement. After the blend comes the bind. Friends, thank you so much for watching. If this archetype stirred something in you, I'd love to hear your reflections below. And please remember to subscribe, stay connected as we continue unlocking the tarot. And until next time, blend with intention and keep listening.